Hi, this is Annie with Wildflower and Stitch. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be making this cute little pine cone granny square. This granny square is part of my State Flower granny square collection, and a white pine cone and tassel is the State Flower of Maine. Two things before we get started. First of all, this is an easy intermediate level tutorial. So while I will be walking you through the steps that we need to make this granny square, I will not go into a lot of detail for very basic crochet stitches and techniques. So if you're very new to crochet, I would recommend you start with one of my beginner friendly tutorials. A second thing to mention is that this is my original design. You are more than welcome to use the squares that you make with this tutorial in any of your crochet projects. I just ask that you give me credit for the design, and I will include super simple guidelines in the description of this video on how you can do that. To make this granny square, you are going to need yarn, 3 different colors if you want to make your granny square in 3 colors like I've done here. So I've used the brown for the pine cone, then I have this background color, and then this green border that kind of reminds me of the pine leaves or the needles. So those are the colors that I picked. And I'm using this Hobie Rainbow 8/8 100% cotton yarn. It is a number 3 lightweight yarn. And with this yarn, I'm using a 4.5 millimeter hook, or US size 7. And with this hook, this yarn, and my tension, this granny square ends up being about 4 by 4 inches. Then you're also going to need a yarn needle for weaving in your ends and a pair of scissors. And we are going to start our granny square from the middle, which is this middle part of the pine cone. So go ahead and grab whatever yarn you want to use for the pine cone. And I will start by making a slip knot. And I put it on my hook. And I chain 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I bring this together into a ring by slip stitching here into that first stitch. And I chain 1 stitch. All right, and now for this first round of the square, I am going to be creating 4 puff stitches. So each one of these is a puff stitch. So that's all I will do for my first round. And I will start right here. I have just joined this into a ring and I chained 1. And then I will work my first puff stitch. This chain 1 here doesn't count as anything, that just brings me up to the right height. So I'll start a puff stitch by going yarn over. I insert my hook in the very middle of this circle. Bring that yarn through. I have 3 loops on my hook. And now I want to pull these loops up a little bit so that they're sort of straight like this, and it's not pulling my hook like that. If your hook is pulling all the way down here, it means that they are too tight. So pull them up a little bit. I have 3 loops on my hook. I go yarn over again, insert in the middle, bring the yarn through, and again pull up those loops. I have 5 loops on my hook, and I go one more time, yarn over, insert in the middle, bring the yarn through, and again pull these loops up. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on my hook. And at this point, I go yarn over and I pull through all 7. And that is my first puff stitch. After the puff stitch, I will chain 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then I will work my next puff stitch into the same ring. So I go yarn over, I insert in the middle, bring the yarn through, and again pull that loop up a little. 3 loops. Again. I have 5 loops. And one more time. And now I have 7 loops on my hook again. And at this point, I go yarn over and I pull through all 7. And I chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So far I have 2 puff stitches. I will work another one. So yarn over, insert in the middle, pull the yarn through, and pull these loops up again. 3 loops on my hook. I'll go again so that I have 5 loops on my hook. And again. And now I have 7 loops on my hook. And I go yarn over and I pull through all 7 loops. And I chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So now I have 3 puff stitches and I will work 1 more puff stitch. So I go yarn over, I insert in the middle, bring the yarn through, again pull these loops up. I have 3 loops on my hook. I go again, pull the loops up. I have 5 loops. And one more time, pull those loops up. And now I have 7 loops on my hook. And I go yarn over and I pull through all 7. And then I chain 3. And now I will close this round with a slip stitch here into this very first chain 3 space. So not into a stitch, but into this space. Just a slip stitch there. To close my round. And I chain 1 stitch. And this is the first round of my granny square. Next, I will start my second round, and the second round is going to be this one here. It is also puff stitches, just like the first one. But on this round, we make the puff stitches a little bit larger. So in the first round, we would have 7 loops on our hook, and then we would pull through all 7 to close the puff stitch. Well, this round, we will have 9 loops on our hook when we go yarn over and pull through all those loops. So they are going to be slightly larger, and we are going to be working 2 of these larger puff stitches into each one of those chain 3 spaces that we created in the previous round. So we are going to start right here. So the last thing I've done here, I closed the round and then I chained 1. And this chain 1 again is not going to count as anything. So I'm just going to start my first larger puff stitch right here. So I go yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, pull up that loop a little bit. I have 3 loops on my hook. I go again, pull those loops up, 5 loops on my hook. Again, 7 loops on my hook, and now I go 1 more time. And now I should have 9 loops on my hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Make sure that they're not too tight, so your hook is not being pulled down. And at this point I go yarn over and I pull through all 9. And I will chain 3. And now with this round, the first round, as you remember, we chained 3 always between those puff stitches. And on this second round, we are going to be chaining 3 stitches when we're working a corner. So a corner is going to be between these 2 puff stitches that are in the same chain 3 space of the previous round here. So basically we just work this one. We chain 3 here. This is going to be a corner. Then we're going to work another puff stitch here. And then this here is not going to be a corner. It's going to be a side between these 2 puff stitches. And here we only chain 2. So between puff stitches, when it's a corner, like here, we chain 3. And when it's not a corner, it's the side, we chain 2 stitches between those puff stitches. So here I have chained 3 because this is going to be a corner here. I'm going to work 2 puff stitches in the same chain space, and between these 2 puff stitches there's going to be a corner. So I chain 3 and I start my next puff stitch right here in the same chain space. So yarn over, insert in the space, 3 loops, 5 loops, 7 loops, and 9 loops on my hook. And when I have 9 loops on my hook, I'll go yarn over and I pull through all 9. And I chain 2. So this is going to be the side here. This is a corner here, which is why I chained 1 more stitch here. So I chain 2 and I'll start the next puff stitch here in the next chain space. So yarn over, insert the hook and pull the yarn through, 3 loops, 5 loops, 7 loops, and 9 loops. And I go yarn over and I pull through all 9. And now here I'm going to have another corner because I'll work 2 puff stitches into this chain 3 space, and between these puff stitches I chain 3 for the corner. So chain 3 and then another puff stitch into the same space. So I keep going until I have 9 loops on my hook, which I think is now. I'll double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I go yarn over and I pull through all of those loops. I chain 2 because this is going to be another side for me. And then I'll move on into this next chain 3 space here. So puff stitch here in the previous one, chain 2, and then move on into the next one. So again, I need 9 loops on my hook. And then I go yarn over and I pull through all 9. I chain 3 for the corner, 1, 2, and 3. And then I'll work another puff stitch into the same space here. So yarn over, insert the hook, bring the yarn through, 3 loops on my hook, and still I keep pulling my hook up so that these loops don't get too tight. So 3, 5, 7, and 9. And I go yarn over and I pull through all 9. Now I have worked 2 puff stitches into that space. So that means that next I'm going to have a side here. I only chain 2, 1 and 2. And then I work 2 more puff stitches into this last chain 3 space. So just straight into that space. I got 7, so I need 2 more. Here we go. 9 loops and I pull through all 9. I chain 3 because this is going to be a corner again, and then another puff stitch into that same space. That's 7 loops, so I need 2 more loops. I have 9 loops on my hook, and I pull through all 9. I will chain 2, and I will close this round with a slip stitch again into that chain space there. And I chain 1 stitch. And that concludes my second round. All right, we are ready to start our third round. And now with this third round, we actually change color in the middle of the round. And we also change the type of stitches that we're making. So if I turn it this way, we are going to start the round here. So we are going to be working 1 more corner of puff stitches in this brown color, or whatever color you have for the pine cone. Then we'll switch color and we work the rest of the round in the background color, which in my case is this beige, and granny stitches. So after this corner, we're done with those puff stitches and we'll just work granny stitches. So go ahead and grab your work. We are going to start with the same color and same type of stitch we've been making so far. So I closed my previous round here, and then I chained 1, and I'm going to start my first puff stitch for this corner right here. And again, I'm working these larger puff stitches that I made this previous round. So the ones where I have 9 loops on my hook before I pull through all the loops. So I chained 1, that doesn't count as anything, just brings me up to the right height. So I'll go yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through. Again, pull these loops up so they're not too tight. 3 loops on my hook. 5 loops on my hook. 7 loops on my hook. And 9 loops on my hook. And at this point, I'll go yarn over and pull through all 9 loops. I will chain 3 for the corner. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'll work another one of these puff stitches into the same space here. So yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, pull those loops up. I have 3 loops, 5 loops, 7 loops and 9 loops. And at this point I go yarn over and I pull through all of those loops. And then I will chain 1 to secure this puff stitch, but I'm going to, as I chain the 1 stitch, I will pull this new color through instead of the old one, which allows me to kind of seamlessly change color here. So I have just gone yarn over and pull through all those 9 loops. I'll bring the new color and I hold it here together, the back of my work, with the old one. And I just pull that new color through. Now this is easier if you have a table or something, because I do like to tie these together. I can actually cut this brown yarn. I left a good few inches there to weave that in. So let's see, I'm going to tie these 2 yarn ends together. And I'll do double knots to be safe. There it is. So now I have changed color. That last chain 1 there that secured the puff stitch helped me change my color. And now I'm going to start working granny stitches all around the square. So I'm gonna go into this next chain space that I have here, and I'll work 3 double crochet stitches into that space. So just the regular double crochets. Three double crochets right there. Then when I get to the next space, I will make a corner here in this space. So if you can see here, I have these 2 puff stitches here. They are in that same loop there of the previous round, which means that this spot here is a corner. So I'll work 3 double crochets. Like so. I will chain 2 for the corner, chain 2. Previously we chained 3 when we had these puff stitches, but now with these granny stitches we only chain 2. And then I work 3 more double crochets into the same space. So there is my corner. And now in this next one I will work a side. So 3 double crochets here. There it is. And in the next space I will work a corner again. So 3 double crochets. I will chain 2 stitches for the corner and then 3 more double crochets into that same space. There it is. And in the next space I will work a side again. So just 3 double crochets into that space. There it is. And in the next space, I will work a corner. So 2 clusters of double crochet separated by a chain 2. As first cluster, I chain 2, and then I'll work 3 more double crochets into the same space. There it is. Now I have 1 more chain space here before I get back to this point where I started, and I'll work 3 double crochets in there for the side. And now I will chain 1. And the reason why I chain 1 here is that I have this puff stitch here next. And if I don't chain anything here, this just pulls my work a little too much because the puff stitch is so different from a granny stitch. So I chain 1 there, and I slip stitch here into that corner space. And that concludes my 3rd round. And now the 4th round is actually going to be super easy. So we are going to continue with this background color, in my case, the beige. And I will just create a full round of granny stitches all around the square. So I'm here in this corner where I just closed the round. I will chain 3, which counts as my first double crochet for this cluster. Then I work 2 more double crochets. And there's my first granny stitch. I chain 2 for the corner, and I work 3 more double crochets into that same space. And that's my first corner. Then I will work another granny stitch here into that space. So it's the space between the first granny stitch of the previous round and the last puff stitch here. I'll just go ahead and work 3 double crochets in there. There it is. And then I just keep going like this. Now the rest of the square is just working granny stitches between the previous rounds granny stitches. So here into this space, just 3 double crochet stitches. And when I get to the corner, I work 3 double crochets. I chain 2. With these granny stitches, we only chain 2 for the corners, and then 3 more double crochets into that same space. And this is how we work all around. So it says clusters of double crochet stitches into those spaces between the previous round's clusters, and in the corners we do 2 clusters separated by a chain 2. So go ahead, work all around, and once you're done and ready to join the round, meet me here. All right, I have worked all around and I'm ready to close this round. And now make sure that you also make a cluster of double crochets right here into this space. It's a little bit tighter than the other ones, so we might easily miss it, but we do need 4 clusters on each side of the granny square. So make sure that you have 4 clusters on this side as well. And then we'll go ahead and close this round. I'm gonna close it with a slip stitch here, right into this first stitch there. Or it's actually the 3rd chain stitch that we chained here in the beginning that counted as our first double crochet. So I'll just slip stitch there, chain 1, and I'll fasten off this color. And finally, I'm going to bring in my border color. So I'm using this kind of evergreen green for the border. And I will attach my yarn with a slip knot. If you want to keep going with that same color, you can of course do that. Or if you're changing color, you can attach it, of course, whichever way you prefer. This is how I attach mine. So I will attach it here. I'm using my weaving as you go method to take care of some of these yarn ends. So I'm just going to attach it right here into this corner where I have this previous color. I will link to a separate tutorial for the weaving as you go method if you want to take a look. Do not spend too much time here on that. All right, I attach my yarn, and then I just pull this knot tight, and I will start by chaining 3. And now this last round is going to be exactly the same as the previous round. So I'm just working granny stitches all around. And this chain 3 here that I just chained is going to count as my first double crochet. So I just work 2 more double crochet stitches right here. I will chain 2 for the corner, and then 3 more double crochets into that same space. There's my first corner. And then I keep working these clusters into the spaces between the previous round's clusters. This I wanted to show you because this is where I closed that previous round. It's a little bit of an awkward spot because in the previous round we had that puff stitch there, so the space is a little tight. But I'll just work after these 3 double crochets. I'll just work 3 double crochets into this space. There it is. And then 3 double crochets to start my next corner here. All right, so this is how I work all around my square. So just 3 double crochets into each one of those spaces, and in the corners I will do 3 double crochets, and then here next I need to chain 2, and then I work 3 more double crochets in the same corner space. So go ahead and work all around your square, and when you're ready to join, meet me back here. I am ready to close this final round. So I finished that last granny stitch there, and now again I'll go into the 3rd stitch here, counting from here. So the chain 3 that I chained there for a double crochet, I'll just go into that 3rd stitch and close this round. Chain 1, and then I can fasten off. And here is my pine cone granny square. One more thing that I have left is working this little stem here, right in between these 2 stitches. If you want, of course, you could just leave it like this without the stem, but I'm going to add the stem here. And basically I'm attaching my yarn here, and I'm working up to this spot here between these 2 clusters, and slip stitching there, and then I'm turning back and slip stitching my way back here. So it might help if you pull these clusters apart a little bit. And I'm going to attach my yarn. Now I attach this a little differently, so I just place the yarn on top. I insert my hook into this space here, and I grab the yarn from here, and I pull it here, like so. And I chain 2 stitches. 1 and 2, and now I slip stitch here between these 2 granny stitches. So I go under here, and I grab that yarn, and I bring it through, and I pull it through the loop on my hook, and I chain 1. Then I will turn my work a little bit. This yarn end I can actually pull to the other side. It might make it a little bit easier if it's there out of sight. So I will turn my work, and I will go into the 2nd stitch from my hook. So my hook is here. Here's the 1st stitch. I go into the 2nd one, and I slip stitch there. Go through that loop, and then just pull this yarn through both of those loops. And then I will work another slip stitch into the next stitch here. So not in the same one where I have this previous one, but I just go into that next chain stitch there that I made and pull the yarn through. I turn my work around again. And now I am back where I started, and I will slip stitch back into the same spot. So I'll just insert my hook here into the space, grab the yarn, and pull it through the loop on my hook. And then I will chain one, and that concludes the stem. I will break my yarn here and just pull this loop, pull it tight, and then get this yarn end to the other side. And now here, these two yarn ends are the ones that I used for the stem. So one of them is the initial yarn end and one of them is this last one. And I will tie a double knot here to secure these here on the back side of my work. And then I'll also weave these in. Oops. So I have quite a bit of weaving in to do here with these color changes. Some of these have been woven in into two different directions, some of them have not. So I'll just make sure that I take care of all these yarn ends. And then of course block the square, but otherwise I am all done. So here is my pine cone granny square for Maine. I really hope you had fun making your pine cone granny square. If you're posting pictures of your granny square on Instagram, please tag my account. I would love to see those pictures. So my Instagram account is at Wildflower and Stitch. And if you like this tutorial, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, leave me a comment, share this with a crochet friend. All of those things do help me a lot. Thank you so much again for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!